Hey everyone, it's Miles from Narcissistic. I'm just going to turn on my mic. If anyone can't hear me, just post. I don't know. Sometimes I didn't check my mic levels or anything like that, but I do hope they're okay. Yeah, my name is Miles. I'm from Narcovery, and today what I want to talk about is something that's incredibly important and difficult for a lot of parents with narcissistic partners, and that's parental alienation. And if you had the misfortune of sharing a child with a narcissistic person, this is something that you're going to need to hear and something you're going to want to watch. And in this video, this video could be something that could really help you change your whole perspective and hopefully your whole life and your relationship to your alienated child. And I just want to start by saying that, this is a very, very complex issue. And this live, what we're going to do is it's going to be well over an hour. It might even hit 2 hours. And the reason it's so long is because it's such a complex issue. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to go very, very deep. We're going to go right into the weeds of the entire thing. We're going to see it from all angles and give you some practical direction to help you understand what you're dealing with narcissistic partners. So what's incredibly important to do is to look at how parental alienation first takes place. So what does a narcissistic parent do in order to just groom their child in order for this alienation to take place? Let's look into that. And what ends up happening is that the child in these relationships, they are told by the narcissistic parent that there's a good parent and there's a bad parent. And what happens is that child is forced to align themselves with the so-called good parent who's actually the narcissist. And to the alienated child, they feel like they're the ones that are being turned against you. And, you're the so-called bad parent who actually just wants to just be a part of your child's life. So let's imagine that your child that is seeing this, that one parent is being told that one parent is the villain. And they're being mentally and emotionally controlled in order to have this perspective. And when you're the parent that's being alienated, it doesn't matter what you try to do, because what's going to happen is the very effort, every single effort that you make to try to be involved with your child's life is going to get twisted into something that is either bad or that is wrong. And when that happens, it's very heartbreaking. And you're going to find that parental alienation is a form of narcissistic abuse that often comes to light during like a divorce or a custody proceedings, or sometimes it's later in a child's life when, they're in their preteens or early teens. It's a time when the child is vulnerable and impressionable. And the narcissistic parent, what do? They seize that opportunity. They take out the anger and the frustration, the resentment that they have against you, and they put it onto your child's shoulders. They project it onto the child, and using the child now as a weapon against you, a loving parent. And the narcissistic parent will tell your child that you are now no good, that you are no longer love them, that you don't want them to be in your life at all, right? And your child sees you as the enemy. And what does a narcissistic parent do? They get the child to align with their feelings and emotions. Narcissistic parent will repeat again and again to a child. Will tell them that the child, that you're no good, that you don't love them, that you don't want them in your life at all. And then you hear that coming from your own child. And what does that make you feel? What message is it that you get? Well, it's like that you hear from your child that your child doesn't want you, that your child has abandoned you and your child has left you and blames you for everything that has gone wrong in the relationship. So let's just think about that for one moment. The child that you love so deeply, who's always been there for you, suddenly sees you as a bad parent, and it feels like a knife that's been just put into your heart. And if this has happened to you, remember, this isn't your fault. This is the work of a manipulative, narcissistic mind that uses a child as a pawn to their game of control. And you were in that narcissistic relationship at one point, and you know what these narcissistic games are. And with a child who is far more impressionable and far more needing of a parent's love than you were when you were in that relationship, you can see how much easier it is for a narcissist to control a child than it was to control you, because you're an adult. And the narcissistic parent will align themselves meticulously into the mind of the child and into the child's heart, and constantly send this repeated message again and again, almost like it's on a loop, that the narcissistic parent is the only parent that the child can rely on. And the child trusts this parent. You know, what does your child end up hearing? This child hears that the narcissistic parent is the only one that can love them, right? It's the only one that can ever love them. And the kids, you know, they don't know about narcissistic love. They don't understand that there's strings attached to it. They hear from a narcissist that, you know, the narcissist will tell them, I'm the only one that cares about you, and you can only depend on me and no one else. And these words are just molded into a young developing mind, and they can slowly erode the bond between you and your child. And we know that when we're born, when the child is born, that they have this natural emotional connection, this chemical bond that is formed between a parent and a child. And the child has this, they're born with this. And they love their parents, even when they're being emotionally and manipulative. Right? And a narcissistic parent, you know, takes that bond that your child has and manipulates it into something very, very twisted. It makes the child feel like that they can only have one parent in their life. And that parent is a narcissistic one. And what does a narcissistic parent do to children? Well, they just insert stories into the child's mind about what you supposedly feel about them, twisting reality to fit the narcissist narrative. And the narcissist, you know, what do they have? They have a hurt ego. And then they take their hurt ego and the narcissistic egoic pain and they put it into the child's mind. And the child then sees you as the enemy. And the narcissistic parent will take every single thing and twist it into something that it's not. So just say that, you know, you might be late for a pickup, or you have to move something in order to reschedule something because, you know, something else is kind of comes up. And, you know, these things kind of happen. But what does the narcissistic parent tell the child? They say, oh, see, you're too busy for your child and that you don't love them. And this is what they do. And, you know, it's like they'll tell the child, it's like, I take time to be there with you, and they didn't. You know, I took the time to care for you, and they didn't. And over time, what happens is the child starts to believe these lies. And the poor alienated parent, who is you, is slowly losing this connection to your child. And this is the insidious nature of parental alienation, because it's not about, you know, turning your child against you. It's not just about turning your child against you. It's about breaking your spirit in the end, making you feel isolated and helpless. It's a form of revenge, a form of manipulation, a way that the narcissistic parent can get back at you. And here's the thing, it's like you're not alone. There are many parents out there that are going through the very same heartache and the very same battle that you are. You know, I remember seeing this documentary. It was called Erasing Families, and it put the number of alienated parents in the United States, just the United States, at 26 million. That's a big number. There's a lot of us out there. Hello from Australia. Hey, Jody. Welcome. Wow, it's early in the morning for you. Anyway, welcome. Yeah, but it's a big number, and I don't know what the numbers are in Australia, but I know in the U.S. it's really big. I don't know what it is in the rest of the world. But you know, so you know what I want to do is help. And so what you're going to find in the next coming sections, because I broke this live up into sections, you're going to find that I'm going to go much deeper into this topic, and we're going to explore the emotional bonds that are created with a toxic narcissistic parent and the effects of the brainwashing and manipulation on the child themselves. And what we're going to do is we're going to connect with the pain of being alienated from your child by a narcissistic parent as well. And we're also going to talk about, you know, what is it that we can do about it, because life does get better. You can rebuild that bond with your child, and that you can heal. So what are you going to expect? What you're going to expect is that a narcissistic parent will tell your child that you don't love them, that you don't care about them, that you know that you only care about yourself. And that narcissistic parent will also reinforce this message again and again, that you have abandoned your child and that they have abandoned us. They might even say something like, they broke up this entire marriage, this entire relationship. It's all their fault. And that's what the child is going to hear from a narcissistic parent again and again, repeated on a loop. And it's heartbreaking for that child from a parent that they love, because a child is like, oh my God, I trust you, mom or dad, I love you. And this is a horrible thing that other parent did, that other narcissistic parent. It is horrible. They did that to us. And just imagine being your child when these words are being programmed into their minds. The words that are coming from someone that the child trusts and loves. And it's devastating because it's a child. Their innocence is just gone like that. And because they're vulnerable and they're very impressionable. And the child starts to believe the lies. They start to believe the lies because they trust the narcissistic parent. They love that parent. And slowly those lies begin to take root. And they start to believe the words of the narcissist. And you know how compelling these words have been because you were actually in that relationship as well, and you know how convincing these narcissists can be. And you are an adult, and this is a child who's just far more vulnerable. And in these relationships, when the narcissistic parental alienation first starts to take place, what's happening to the child at first is like they may feel uncomfortable with hearing these words repeated again and again from a narcissistic parent. They might actually push back. At first, right? At first, they may be like, no, I want to love both of you. I want to love both of my parents, right? But the narcissistic parent doesn't stop there. You know what they do? They intimidate the child, creating an environment where the child feels like they have to choose sides, where they believe that the narcissistic parent is the only one that's looking out for them because look at how passionate they are. Look at how much energy that they are putting into keeping me from that other parent, keeping your child away from you. And it creates this weird sense of safety in the child's mind. It's a warped, manipulative sense of safety, a very specific sense of safety of manipulation. And if you think about it, how can a child go up against a parent who says that they love them? How can they? How can they stand up to someone who seems so sure and who's so convincing? And over time, what happens is this poor child's mind is that, they start to believe, they start to feel that they can't upset that narcissistic parent, because if they upset the narcissistic parent, then all of a sudden what happens? They have to get small. And they have to just kind of dissolve themselves and give up their own autonomy to this narcissistic parent that just keeps repeating these patterns again and again. And what happens to the child is the child realizes that they can't even tell the narcissistic parent that they want to talk to you because they've been told you are bad. And if I want to talk to you and you're bad, that makes me bad. And that's wrong. That's what the child is going to hear. That's what the child is going to sense. And they don't want to feel that way. Why do I even have these feelings, right? And even when the child does have moments with you, they're filled with guilt and shame and just a sense of dirtiness, because it becomes this little secret that they enjoy spending time with you, something that they can't share with anyone. And they can't even tell the other parent that, because the other parent will twist anything that kind of gets said and turn that against you. So it's like, they carry that shame and guilt around with them, right? Your sister is going out with the youngest son. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. Hey, from the UK. Yeah, it is very twisted. Thanks for showing up, Max. It's good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, I want to actually share a story that of a father that I spoke to, and he loved his daughter so deeply, and yet with every single visit, with every single call, he just noticed that his daughter was just kind of had this shadow of guilt around her. His daughter had been told so many lies about him that she didn't know what to believe anymore. And even though they had a great relationship at first, when the first separation happened, as time went on, it was just like this constant turmoil of a narcissistic parent creates within the child. And the child, ended up, tearing this entire relationship apart, this tight bond between the father and his daughter. And they're torn between their natural desire to love both parents and the fear that is instilled by a narcissistic parent. Imagine being in that environment. And this internal conflict that goes on inside the child's mind and the child's body is exhausting for them. And they're so young and they're so impressionable. They're constantly navigating this in the minefield of emotions, trying to reconcile their feelings with this manipulative message that is fed to them again and again by a narcissistic parent. And, they're just not sure what's real anymore. And the narcissistic parent is so skilled at warping and manipulating a very young, impressionable child's mind that the child starts to see the world through the distorted lens of the parent, the one that's meticulously crafted. The narcissistic mind is meticulously crafted into the child's mind. And what you can imagine is on the other side of that. It's like being that alienated parent. Suddenly you have this absolutely perfect relationship with your child. And because there could be just a tiny slight in perception, and I'm not talking about reality, but in perception. And it's about that perception that is interpreted by the child and is manipulated by the narcissistic parent. That anything that you do, it's so small, is so tiny, is an excuse for that parent to create these hurtful messages, and it could just be ever so slight, and what will happen is that the narcissistic parent will see whatever that is, a late for a pickup or a missed opportunity here or there, they will see that and they will point that into the child's mind and they will put it on a loop. They'll see that right there, see what that parent did. That's wrong. I told you that they were bad. I told you that they were wrong. Can't you see? I've been telling you that I'm the loving parent. That other parent that's in your life, they are bad. They don't care about you. And if they did, then this tiny little slight, this little misperception, this perception, not even reality, is just kind of turned into something that it never should be. They will tell you that you're careless, that you're uncaring, and it's a sign. And all the things that have been telling you again and again in this child's mind, it's just like, that's what the child hears. And it's so heartbreaking because it's like, I remember another story I heard about a mother who I was working with, and she was so desperate to maintain a relationship with her son after her divorce. But, every effort that she made was twisted by her ex-husband. If she called to check in on her son, it was painted as, oh, that's so intrusive. Can you believe she called like right now? And you said, why is she constantly checking up on you? She must not like you anymore. And this is so invasive. She's invading your privacy, Or if she missed a call, if they called and she missed it, maybe she was on the other line, maybe she was working. It's like, oh, well, yeah, obviously your mom doesn't love you anymore because she didn't pick up the phone, right? It's obviously that she doesn't care, and that's the message that's being told to this child, this impressionable child. And her son, began to see through the toxic lens of the father that created, that one lie that was just painted by the narcissistic parent, and began to believe it. And if you still want to be involved in your child's life, you want to love them, you want to support them, you want to be there. But every move that you make, what happens? It gets twisted against you. It can feel like you're fighting a losing battle, doesn't it? But here's the thing. The battle is tough, but you can find a way through it. And in the next sections, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to explore the emotional bond that the toxic parent creates within the child. And that one is just so devastating. And we're also going to talk about the effects of brainwashing on a child's mind, because it's important to understand the point of view of your child in this, in order for this kind of manipulation, in order to unpack it and understand it better. So stay with me, because together we're gonna face this, and you're gonna face this pain first, and then what we're gonna do is going to go through all the reasons that this pain is the background of the pain, because we need to understand it, and because in order to overcome it, we need to understand it first, because you and your child do deserve a chance to heal. Do you have a chance to bond? And here's what's going to happen. It feels like you're under the microscope all the time of the narcissistic parent's tactics. And it's like if you're the alienated parent, it's like if you show up for events or you try to buy things or you try to engage in your child's life in any way. And if you're going to do everything that you can to stay present, to show that you love them, every single attempt is going to get twisted. Right? It's going to be twisted by the narcissistic parent. They're going to twist everything that you do. They're going to pull the child aside and say, look at that, they're trying to control you. They're going to say, look at that, they're trying to dominate you. They won't even give you any privacy. They're invading your space. They don't care about what you want. They just show up whenever that they want. Like they own the place. They just kind of do whatever they want, whenever they want. You didn't even invite them to this event, and they only care about what they want. The narcissistic parent only cares what they want. They don't see you as a person. That's what the child hears again and again, repeated in its mind. Hey, Yvette. Oh, a little late. Oh, I'm glad you're here, though. Welcome. And all you ever did was to show up to an event, or, maybe try to send them a Christmas card, or try to, get them a holiday present, or take them on vacation. It's all that you tried to do. And as an alienated parent, what do? You try to assert yourself. And here's the trap a lot of alienated parents kind of fall into. It's like this sense of desperation that can overwhelm us at times. And when these things first start happening, you start hearing all of this negativity coming from your own child, you might, try to just say, no, I want a relationship with you. I want to love you. I want to see you. And the narcissistic parent will turn that around on you because they have the child's mind in all of these other things. So that they will actually say, they will be so intrusive, and they will actually call you narcissistic. They will convince your child that you are narcissistic, and they only care about themselves. That's what your parents will think, that your child will think about you, is that you only care about yourself, that you don't actually care about what your child wants. And what you're trying to do is say that you want to have a relationship. And it's heartbreaking to be alienated from your child, especially for long periods of time. And deep down in your heart, you tried to be part of your child's life, and yet your ex would twist all of your actions against you. They would tell your child that they just want to control you, that you're not interested in what they want. And over time, your child starts to believe these lies, and that they keep hearing them again and again. They just naturally and instinctively start to push you further and further away. And if you try to go even harder to try to stay in their lives, they'll push you away even faster, and they'll push you away even harder. And in the meantime, the child becomes more and more dependent on the narcissistic parent. And what ends up happening is they shrink emotionally, they shrink mentally. They actually become locked into whatever age that the alienation first began. And they start to believe that no matter what the loving parent, you, that's been alienated, says, they must push you away. And that's so heartbreaking when that happens. And it's incredibly triggering for the parent who's lost access to the child that they love so much. Like, imagine having your own child reject you, and that pain and that confusion that it may cause. And if you've been suffering through that again and again for so many times, it makes total sense that maybe that you as an alienated parent might just kind of say, all right, maybe I should step back. Maybe I should withdraw. Maybe I just need to take a break. Maybe I need to give them space. And what does a narcissistic parent do? They twist that too. They don't care about you. See, they don't want to see you. See, they moved on with their lives. See, they've abandoned us. They manipulate everything. And if you show up, it's like you're being intrusive. If you don't show up, see, they don't care. They're moving on with their lives. They've abandoned us. Keep saying that message again and again. And there's no compassion or empathy that comes from a narcissistic parent. They're narcissistic. That's not in their wheelhouse. That's not what they know how to do. And all that you're trying to do is trying to be with your child. And all you're trying to do is give your child space by stepping back. And the child is led to believe that they're being abandoned, and there's no credit ever given to your efforts or to try to stay in your child's life or your child's life at all, any connection that you have in your child's life at all. So what do you do if you're the alienated parent that's damned if you try to stay involved in your child's life and you're damned if you don't? This toxic cycle repeats itself over and over again. And that once loving relationship has now been torn apart little by little. And it can happen over months. It can happen over years. And you can see that your own child is starting to push you away, and they start to reject you. You know, they can tell you that they could regress into silence. They could just stop communicating with you altogether. And the more that this happens, the more upset the alienated parent can become, the more upset that you become. And it makes sense because you want to be in your child's life. And you can say, you know, where's my relationship gone? Why has my child believing in these lies? Why is my child believing this manipulation? And it's like, why? And it can drive us insane. Because it's so mentally and emotionally confusing. And it's a tactic and used to abuse us, right? And it makes sense that if you're alienated from your child, that you will become emotional. And of course, no one is perfect. No one in life is perfect. And sometimes in moments of these desperations, of these hopelessness, of helplessness, we might say or do something out of frustration. And what happens next? The bear trap gets open, right? The narcissistic parent seizes that opportunity. You're desperate to stay in your child's life, and they will seize that moment. They will say to the child, it's like, look how much chaos that this parent is bringing to your life, right? Look how terrible they are. They're so desperate. Look how awful that they are. Look at how much stress that they put on you. You know, if we can just cut that relationship off, if you can just say no to that parent, then you won't have to deal with this anymore. And the child is innocent and vulnerable, is just overwhelmed with this mixture of just lies and delusions and manipulations. And then one moment of imperfection, one moment when the loving parent might make a mistake, a tiny little mistake. Imagine your worst emotional moment, the worst emotional moment. Maybe you're crying, maybe you're angry, maybe you're desperate to see your child. And they take that moment. The narcissistic parent will take that moment and they will just turn it upside down and backwards, right? Now imagine that one reaction, that one word or that one cry or when that one please, I want to be, don't do this to me, please, just kind of gets trapped on a loop. And it's repeated endlessly in the child's mind by the narcissistic parent. I remember this person that I talked to, and she was just a really loving mother. And then one day, in one moment of desperation, she yelled at her daughter. And she yelled something like, you know, why can't you just see that I love you? Why can't you see the lies that are being fed to you? You know, what happened was her narcissistic ex-husband used that moment to convince the daughter that the mom was unstable. That, look at it, she's toxic, she's unstable, you can't be around her anymore. And he played that incident on a loop in the daughter's mind again and again, twisting it into something that it wasn't. And this is the real cruel reality of parental alienation because it's relentless. And it's an ongoing attack on the bond between you and your child. And here's what you need to remember. This journey that so many have walked before you, many have found their way through it. And it's horrible to even be exposed to that. But we have to understand this game. It's a hard game to listen to. I know this is a hard video to watch, but please stay with me because we have to understand this game because you and your child deserve to live in the truth and love and to be free from manipulation and control. And you deserve to love your child and be loved by your child. And what you can see is that the worst moment of parental alienation when you realize that you've lost your child or that they're starting to slip away. And this is the moment that's kind of etched in your memory. It's a memory of raw pain, of just raw despair. And of course you're going to react to it. And the narcissistic parent will take that moment and turn it into a weapon. Sometimes they'll capture it on a video or a text or a phone or a photo. And they'll ensure that the child never forgets that one moment of instability, that one moment of raw emotion, or one moment of raw vulnerability that you expressed because you're so hurt. and you allowed your pain to show. Because because you were put on a pedestal of just absolute perfection. And there's no way that we can stand on that pedestal. We just no way. And if you sway in any way, even if it's just perceived, it's like you're screwed. Because the narcissistic parent is so, hypercritical, and they micromanage absolutely everything, including the thoughts a child has towards you. And it's like, look at what that other parent did. Is what the child is going to hear. They're look at how, they disrespected you, how they hurt you, how they twisted your pain into a narrative that paints you as a villain again and again. And they don't just stop there, because the narcissistic parent will pair that moment with another and constant barrage of lies, reinforcing the idea that you bring chaos and stress and anxiety into your child's life. And it's true. But it shouldn't be true. You do bring stress into your child's life. It's a perceived stress that the narcissist has created, because your mere presence now gives your child anxiety. And, that's all the child remembers, that you are a parent that gives me anxiety when I'm near you. And as hard as it is to be alienated from your child, it's not just you that is suffering, because the narcissistic parent will make sure that the child believes that they can't trust anyone associated with you. No one. What does that mean? Can't trust grandma. Can't trust grandpa. You can't trust aunts, uncles. Oh, and you should probably stay away from, cousins. And, the parents' friends, too. Stay away from all of those people. And then suddenly the child becomes isolated, not just from you, but from everyone that loves them. Everyone that could be a positive influence in their life suddenly gets erased from their lives. Right? So imagine being a child that is just cut off from an entire support network, entire side of the family that's erased from the child's life. And that means that there is no support system there for that child anymore. There are no grandparents there in their lives to spoil them. There are no aunts or uncles for them to confide in, no cousins for them to play with, and no friends to share their secrets with. All you have is a narcissistic parent. And the child is the one person that becomes their entire life. And the child is going to become more and more dependent on that parent, because it's lonely and it's confusing. And it's really tough place to be, because your entire side of the family is no longer there to support your child. And your child has lost contact with an entire support system, believing that they only have one person. And that one person is one of the narcissistic parents. This proves the narcissistic parental dynamics. I'm just reading a vet's comment. They do, because the dynamic is just like you described. It's like exes. They just manipulate. Started to go through it for years. Hey, Grant. I totally feel your pain. And it does feel exactly like that. Max, exactly what's happening with my son. All right, well, this is an important video. You may want to watch it again after I'm done. I'm going to take you through even more of it. And I'm so sorry to hear that, Max. It's just like, I hear these stories. There's so many people. You're not alone. It was just like, that documentary that I saw, 26 million. Parents in the U.S. Are alienated from their child. So that was in Erasing Families. And that's why even this whole part, it's like the entire family gets erased. It's not just you, it's the entire family, everyone that's associated with you, just so the parent can just be the only one in the child's life. And one of the worst parts of parents is that people that are going through this, like Max and Grant, is that whether it's if it's a court case or in a custody battle or in counseling, that the narcissistic parent will ensure that they poison the minds of everyone involved. And what are they going to do? They're going to manipulate the courts. They're going to manipulate any kind of counselors. They're going to, if there's a reunification therapist or a teacher or a coach, anyone who might have a say in the child's life, they'll tell that other parent, that one, they're very unstable. they're very upsetting to the child. They abandon us, and the child hates them. They're going to tell that to everyone in the child's life. And if you see that other parent around, it's just like, just be aware. So all of a sudden, the teachers, the coaches, the principals, all of a sudden are seeing you as the danger. And the narcissistic parent will repeat these stories over and over again, convincing everyone that you are unfit, that you are unstable, that you should be kept away, and they poison friends. They poison family members. They poison neighbors, anyone who will listen. They will turn everyone against a parent who just, wants to love their child. And what could happen is that your ex, they could go to the schools. They could talk to the teachers, the administrators. They could convince everyone in the child's life that you are a dangerous one and that you are the unstable one. They don't have time to get involved with all of that. They don't have time. All those people, they don't have time to unpack it all. So what happens? A narcissistic parent can convince therapists that you're a threat to your own child's well-being. And everywhere that you turn, you can find that the doors are closing and that you get these very suspicious looks. And all of a sudden, the lies that your ex has been spreading suddenly start to revert back, and you start to feel it and start to sense it to yourself. And the smear campaign that's gone out, this is a tough journey. This journey is tough. It's very, very tough. But we will find a way through it, because you and your child deserve a life that's just free from manipulation and control, and you deserve to heal, to love, and to be free. A daughter actually texted me the first time. Oh wow, 3 years ago. That's amazing. There are techniques, Max, in order to keep those relationships going. But it's amazing that they reached out. And I'm sorry you lost 2 years, because that's heartbreaking. Ex is a narcissist and abusive. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And Max is saying she's getting an autism diagnosis soon. Oh, that's so hard, especially with that. She definitely needs more support. Oh, thanks, Jody. Thanks, Jody. I experienced that everyone in my kid's life was involved to watch me and seem like they had protect others, and it is insane. It absolutely is insane. And I'm gonna go deeper into it. But before we talk about what you can do, what I want to do is just look at what this does to the alienated child, because it's very important to understand, because here's what ends up happening. It's just like when the entire environment has been poisoned and manipulated around the child's life, what happens to the child? They're now getting these messages, not from one parent that you're bad, not just the one parent. They're getting it from the school principal, who also thinks that you're bad. They're getting it from coaches who are like, oh, we better be careful from that. They could be getting it from ministers, from neighbors, from anyone that's a figure of authority, that the child, in the child's life, that the child is insulated into getting this message. They're now in this bubble of all these flying monkeys that have just kind of been groomed to repeat this message. So it has to be true, because they're not just hearing it from one person. And it's just like, from the child's point of view, it's like, well, if all of these people agree with my narcissistic parent, obviously they're telling me the truth. They've been telling me the truth the whole time. And yeah, that parent is bad. And what happens in the child's mind is that it becomes a third-party endorsement for you being out of your life. More people to ensure that they can justify alienating you from their life. And you can imagine how that feels to be that child. This story is repeated over and over again, and everyone else starts believing it and repeating it. And to the child, so they hear it from so many sources, and it becomes the truth. This becomes gospel into the child mind. It becomes the new normal. It becomes an acceptable reality for an alienated child to alienate you. And you can find that the narcissistic parent can turn the entire communities of teachers and coaches and everyone to get in on these lies. And they will repeat it again and again and again, that you are a bad person, that you are untrustworthy. And the emotional toll that on the child is devastating, because this child starts to believe, that you are a parent that just doesn't want to be in their life, and everyone else doesn't want you to be in their life either. And it's like, I have a parent that doesn't care about me. That's what this new child believes, right? I have a parent that wants to hurt me and do bad things to me. And they become isolated, and they become bonded to the narcissistic parent and this harem that they now live in. And there is this trauma bond that is formed in the parent-child relationship between the alienated parent or alienated child and the narcissistic parent. It's a trauma bond that it gets formed there. And what happens is that they will do everything that they can to please that narcissistic parent. And if that means pushing you away, then that's exactly what they're going to do. And if you're going to try to cling even closer, that's what they're going to do. They're going to cling even closer to the narcissistic parent who's actually doing the alienating, who's actually being the abuser in the story. And meanwhile, the narcissistic parent is going to project all these toxic emotions onto the child. And they're going to call you narcissistic. They're going to call you controlling. They'll say, yeah, that other parent, makes all of these demands. And, child, the alienated child, intuitively knows that this parent is feeling lots of stress and lots of anxiety, and they're going to absorb those feelings. They're going to absorb the stress and the anxiety because, they understand what that feels like. And it's very, very easy for them to take on a narcissistic parent's projection and embody it. And what you're going to hear is that your child is going to be saying things that sound exactly like your ex. Because from the child's point of view, what they do is they see themselves as having a happy life with a narcissistic parent. And as long as they do exactly, and I mean exactly what the narcissistic parent says, reject all other people, accept all the lies that they've been given again and again, everything is going to be wonderful because a narcissistic parent is brilliant at love bombing. They will get rewarded for doing mean things to you, for hurting you. Your child will get rewarded for that. And there you are. You may show up at like a school event or a concert or something, and the child is like, oh no, that's that parent again, and now I'm full of anxiety and stress and worry, and the child's anxiety levels skyrocket. And what are they going to do? It's just like your mere presence in their life now gives them stress and anxiety. So they're going to say, I don't want you here. Go away. Right? I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to have all this anxiety. That's what your child is going to think. And the child may even cry at how much it hurts to see you at an event. And as the child is crying and pushing you away, what does a narcissistic parent do? It's just like, oh, yeah, they'll console them. It's like, come here. Oh, it's okay. I'm here. I love you. I love you. It's a good thing. I told you that we have to tell that mean parent off. See, it's okay. I'm here for you. I'm always going to be here for you. I'm the one that's going to make you feel safe. And then it kind of makes sense why an alienated child starts parroting the words of the narcissistic parent. It actually makes sense. You can actually have compassion for what your own child is going through that manipulation, what they need to feel safe. You might hear the words the narcissist once said about you coming from your own child. If you hadn't left us, if you hadn't hurt this family, if you hadn't abandoned us, if you didn't choose to care so much about yourself, you'd still be here and we'd still be a family if you hadn't chosen that other life, a life without us, right? And it's like, I'm so mad at you. I hate you. It's all your fault, It's what your child is going to say. Don't make me feel bad about this because it's not my fault. I don't want to feel bad because it's something that you did. And this is the words of the narcissist coming out of your own child's mouth. It says, you're a bad person. This is my family now. You're not part of it. And that's what the child is going to think. And once you see and understand what the child has heard and how it's being groomed and how it's being trained, when these words come at you, it's just like, yeah, it's heartbreaking. But at least you can understand why those words are coming at you. And it makes sense that if you're hearing those words coming from your own child, that you might just feel completely dejected. That makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. You might just walk away, just feeling defeated, and you can try to go and reach out and find support from teachers or from coaches. And it's like, hey, I want to talk to you about my kid. And the response is what? Oh, yeah. We know about you. We heard about that story. We're gonna get. We're not going to talk to you. You're going to go to family and friends and try to explain what's going on. People say, "Oh, that's too bad. Oh, you did have a relationship once with your child. I mean, the kid that won't even talk to you now. It's been what, weeks, months, years? Surely you must have done something wrong. Surely you're to blame somehow. You don't get the compassion. You're not going to get any empathy from anyone. And if you're being alienated from your child like that, you can feel like you have no say. And this creates more anxiety and more emotion, more depression, and the situation continues to cycle unless there are people who are willing to recognize and look deeper into the stories. Because what you're going to find is that in your search to reclaim this connection with your child is that it's going to be an uphill battle because everyone has been turned against you. Yeah, my ex-husband contacted the school principal. Yeah, no, that's I've heard that story so many times, and it is a form of gaslighting, and it's a smear campaign. Brainwashes the children, brainwashes everyone, and I'm so sorry that happened. My daughter still gets anxiety when I confront her. I know, just actually the mere presence of someone does that. Yeah, I'm glad everyone can relate to this. Because every so often you do get lucky, right? In communities like this and forums like this, you do get lucky. Every so often you might find, a counselor, you might find a teacher, you might find, a guidance counselor at a school that's willing to go a little deeper to recognize the patterns of manipulation and control. And then if you can get a little bit of support from somebody else, you can start to rebuild these relationships one step at a time. And this journey to reclaiming and reconnecting with your child is so tough, but it's not impossible. And yeah, for sure, divorces are hard. Divorces are hard on everyone. There's always going to be strife. There's always going to be conflict. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a divorce. But parental alienation, this is just the next level of insidious behavior, because this is when a child is systematically programmed to reject one parent and accept the other at all costs, regardless of what the child might actually think or when the child might actually feel. And imagine that, the longer that this goes on, the more the child feels powerless. They feel less and less able to say, hey, I know about all this stuff that's going on, but I would really like to go and spend some more time with you. Maybe we can just go grab a coffee, or maybe we can just grab some ice cream, or maybe we can just watch a movie together. It gets harder and harder the longer and longer the separation takes place, because here's what your child is thinking. It's like, yeah, they may actually want to talk to you. They may actually want to text you. They may actually want to email you, but eventually they stop asking because they know that it's not right and that it's bad, because they've been programmed to believe that. And if they have those needs and if they have those desires and they're bad, then the narcissistic parent will reinforce that again and again. The narcissistic parent will be there to soothe the child, to make it all okay, that this behavior is okay. I'm here for you. Right? And since they've heard that so many times, it has to be true. And they're hearing it from other sources, so it has to be true. So they feel like they have no choice. They have to cut contact with you. And this is what it is. It's just like Stockholm syndrome. It's just like Stockholm syndrome. Your child does what they can to survive that environment. Your child will do whatever they need to do to get by, to keep status quo, to keep that narcissistic parent happy, because as long as that narcissistic parent is happy, then their life is balanced. And they just keep hearing those words from the narcissistic parent saying, I love you and you love me and we're in this together and we're the only ones that we can depend on, you and me. We only depend on each other. And your child becomes just this watered down shell of themselves. They get filled with anger. They get filled with frustration. And when that happens, when your child doesn't know what to do with their own emotions, you can start to see behavioral issues starting to come out. Right? There could be trouble in school, trouble in sports, health issues. Sometimes it's like suicidal thoughts or even self-harm. And when your child is struggling and can't express themselves, they might be brought to a therapist. But because the therapist can't see everything that's been described, the easy answer becomes, well, if that other parent would just go away, then everything would just be fine. And your child, as time goes on, as your alienation gets further and further, they might feel like, if only you would just stop, trying to send me a birthday card or a Christmas card. If only you would stop saying that you loved me. If only you would stop, asking me for parenting time. If all you would just do is just go away, everything would be better. But that's another lie, and that's just not true, because you were in that narcissistic relationship. You know what your child is being exposed to. And the real tragedy is that your child's true desires and emotions, have been buried by a narcissistic parent who is hell-bent on revenge, on using your own child to get their revenge onto you and to hurt you. And the narcissistic parent actually truly believes that only they know what is best for your child. And that means only one parent. And you know what narcissistic people are like. You know what narcissistic parents are like, because they will do everything at all costs to make sure that their relationship with your child is the only one that matters. And everything else needs to just kind of go away, come hell or high water. And unfortunately, it comes at the expense of your child, because your child is the one that's kind of being just torn apart. They're the one that's being manipulated with lies, and just they start, losing touch with, their own true feelings and their own desires, because now they're displaying the same people-pleasing strategies that you may have had to use in that relationship as well. And they're caught in the cycle of anger and confusion, unable to express what they're actually going through inside, and it's painful, and it's heartbreaking to watch it happen. And if you're a parent, and you can imagine what it's like for your child. Imagine being alienated from a child who believes that, they can only have one parent, and that only the other parent is a bad parent, and they have to choose. Imagine being your child. And the choice that no child should ever have to make is choosing which parent to love. And your child, is just hearing all of these things that are being made up about you. And deep down inside, you're just a loving parent. And any mistake that you have made, no matter how small, is just kind of blown into something just huge and awful. And instead of being a small little problem or minor little setback, it's turned into this monumental issue that made the child feel like, you weren't good enough. And imagine feeling that. There must be something wrong with me, is what you could feel. That, that's what the child might feel. There must be something wrong with me, because I have a parent who wants to hurt me, who doesn't love me, who doesn't care about anything that I want to say or anything that I want to do. And this belief, what takes root inside the child, then, it grows, and it becomes, and it festers by a narcissistic parent, and that's going to go deep into your child's psyche. And it's just kind of manipulation. All the thoughts and all the beliefs that the child has about the world and their connection in their space. And it damages your child's self-worth. It damages their ability to speak out. It damages their ability to have a voice. And that damage is so profound that can often take years and sometimes decades for the child to even begin to unpack it all. But by then, they're burdened by the weight of all of these lies and manipulation. They've carried them for so long that it has shaped who they are. And they grow into adulthood with the reality of what's been done to them. And all of this starts to surface. They begin to see this toxic environment and this manipulation for what it was. And they might even try to reconcile with you and finally see the truth. But that's going to take time, and it's a journey. That journey is long, and that journey is painful. And, they have to go back and look at their entire lives, again, from a new perspective, to re-examine everything that they thought they knew, because, so much of what it was planted, was manipulated. Their reality, they lost their reality. And they have to relearn what it means to have two loving parents, not one good parent and one bad parent. And then it's when they realized that, they grew up having a relationship with one side of the family. They were forced to destroy the relationship of the other side. Think about it. Think about a grandparent that could have passed away. And then, a grandfather is gone. They never got to found resolution. that because they were made to reject that entire side of the family, they missed out on love and wisdom and support. So many people who cared about them. And this journey of reconciliation is difficult. And it's a path that's filled with pain and regret, but it's also got hope, and it's also healing, because your child, once they become an adult, they will sift through the lies. They will sift through their lives, and they will become and realize that they were a part of this manipulation. You know, they can see the pain that the narcissistic parent has put onto them. And that's when, you know, they can rebuild their understanding of what love truly is, what family truly is, what trust truly is, and can only see, you know, the people that actually love them and the people that pretend to love them in order to trade for some form of control. And for you, the alienated parent, it's a painful realization too, that your child is forced to live in a world of lies and isolation. And the lifelong implications of parental alienation is so strong and so hard to break. And early on, you may have missed some of those signs early on. And it becomes very difficult to find somebody who's willing to look deeper or just accept the surface story. Because, you know, if until you find somebody who's willing to dig deeper, the damage will continue to go on and on and on. And it's so hard to change that programming. It is the child with Stockholm syndrome, right? Yeah, money to control a daughter for years. Money is a very powerful tool, especially with children. Narcissistic ex is often believed. I got tested. Oh yeah, wow. I'm told almost. Yeah, it's that narc scale. It's incredible. It's a great point, Max. Being raised by a narcissist, became suicidal at the age of 11. I've heard stories like that too. It's really heartbreaking. And self-harm, eating disorders, you know, personality disorders. All of those things are all just kind of ways to stop it. You know, I have guilt of choosing as farther. How do we stop that, Tara? I'm going to go into that. There isn't a lot that we can do, unfortunately, but I will go into how to rekindle these relationships. But first, we have to understand it, right? So stick with me. We do need to understand their point of view. If we can get into their minds, into their hearts, into their souls, and understand, then we know how to talk to them. But until we fully understand what they've gone through, that when they say things at you, they don't mean it. They're not coming from them. They've been programmed into it. And deep down in their core, there's layers of emotions. There's layers of protection that they put up. And the goal, the way that you stop it, is you start to tear down those layers slowly and slowly. But we first have to understand how the defensive systems for the child has been formed. And you being an alienated parent, it can feel helpless. It can be helpless to change this program, I know. But there are ways that we can get to realize that, you know, that the child doesn't have just one parent that's bad and one parent that's good. And yeah, sure, you may not be perfect, right? You're not perfect, but you're not bad. Right? And if you're the alienated parent, if you try to bring it up, it will spark too much guilt and loyalty to the narcissistic parent. So you have to understand how careful and how delicate these things are. Talking about the narcissistic parent is very difficult. It's a hard thing to do, and it's best to stay away from it until we can rekindle that relationship, because any conversation about that is going to spark guilt and shame in the child. And in order for a child to love you, you first have to acknowledge that they're carrying a lot of guilt and shame. But to recognize that, you have to have the child believe that they have two loving parents. And that is the message that we have to get through. And that's the message that we have to get to the child, that there are two parents that love them unconditionally. And unconditional love is what you can show them. Unconditional love, because that's what a child needs to hear, that they can love both parents, that they don't have to choose, that love is not a competition. Right? And I know when you're being alienated, you may only get these little small windows to send information to your child, to find the right words, to find the right actions, for time to change the child's mindset. Right? We have to choose our words very carefully. We have to be very, very patient. And yeah, the parent that has been alienated, has been damaged, and you've been abused by parental alienation. And you also need to find a sense of your own sense of self, your own sense of healing. These wounds, you've been abandoned. There's an abandonment wound. You've been abandoned by your own child. And if you've been alienated from your child, from your ex, you've got this damage that needs to heal. And you've been abused by parental alienation. It is a form of narcissistic abuse. And it's like, it's so important that, even though you don't have time to spend with your child, you can take that time to work on yourself in order to heal your sense of self. Because, the narcissist will trap us. They will trap us. If we use our emotions, they will trap us. We can't fall into their traps again and again. And it's so important first to know that these traps are. That, they were going to project you as being unstable. If you act unstable, it's just like they're just going to reinforce it, right? So it's important not to make the mistakes and fall into the traps that have been set for us, because you have to work on yourself in order to show up and not fall into the trap, not to be all those, the emotional just anger and rage and all of these feelings that you're feeling, to not have them come out, because those ones are what's going to terrify the child, right? And you have to show up as true love, as being an authentic person, right? You know that the alienated child can see that and remember that they want to see you as a parent that has just kind of stood strong, that has stood steadfast, and has always been loving and always been understanding, even though they may have pushed you away, even though they called you names, even though they said, I never want to see you again, even though they may tear up your birthday card, right? Even though. You have to just kind of stand there and love them. And yeah, you've been alienated from your child, and you're going to be painted as bad, as awful and controlling, as narcissistic even. But every single parent that I've worked with, everyone that I've come across, if given the opportunity, they're absolutely fine, as long as the child has some kind of relationship with their child, some kind of connection, some kind of bond that they have. And, that's all that they want. Despite being alienated, they still want to have a child, have a relationship with both parents. They don't want to alienate the other parent. They know how painful that was. And even though it was done to them, they're so loving and they're so kind that they would not repeat that pattern to the other parent. They do that despite the emotional abuse and the manipulation that your child has gone through, that they've seen, that they've witnessed, and the toxic behavior that they've been exposed to as well. They just want a chance to be in the child's life. Should the child still have a relationship with a narcissistic parent of abuse? Is it their choice? At some point, it all depends on the age of the child. If the child is being physically abused, then they are not safe in that environment. Right? So there are so many, there's no easy way to answer that question. You really have to go deep into what all of that means. Yeah, and there was always hope. Thanks, Max. Yeah, I love Max. Max is awesome. And at what point should a parent give up? Never. Never. Even though you may not see your child for years, you can still love them from a distance. You can still try to connect. You can still send them messages, right? Because the second that you give up, all of a sudden the child doesn't have two loving parents anymore. The child only has that one narcissistic parent, right? Anyway, I do hope that's helpful, right? Because all we're really looking for is just an opportunity to have a relationship, to remind our child that they have two parents. What's heartbreaking and what's so sad about what it does is that we have some parents that have been completely unselfish love, and that we know that there's enough love to give around. Love isn't finite, right? Narcissists have this messed up belief that there's a finite amount of love. And if the child can give some to you, then there's not enough to give to them. And that's so bent, so twisted. That's what the child needs to feel, is that love is unselfish. That even if they reject you and hate you and slam the door and all of those things, you still love them, right? Because the other message that the child is getting from a narcissistic parent is like, it's selfish love, right? I will love you if, right? I will love you even if I can't talk to you. I will love you even if you tear up my cards. Because the narcissistic parent, because love is not finite. Like it's infinite. You love a little bit. A little bit is all, right? And if your child does what the narcissistic parent says, then they will get a little bit of love from that parent, right? Because love is this tap, turns on and off, on and off. They don't get love from you. They only have one source, the narcissistic parent. And if they don't please that narcissistic parent, that love goes on and off and on and on. And when that's off, your child has no love at all, right? So imagine being what that's like. So you understand Stockholm Syndrome, what it's like to be having to just connect with your captors, right? Narcissistic parent just won't share a child's love with you or anyone else. And, yeah, I will love her forever. Yeah, I'm so glad. That is so brilliant. That almost brings a tear to my eye. That is so powerful to see. Adult children is it their choice. Yeah, adult children just take time, but at least you can have levels of communication and barriers. And some relationships can't be fixed. But we can still love them. We may even have to put boundaries on them, especially if a child grows up with a narcissistic parent and becomes narcissistic. It's like bringing them into your life. It's just like we also need to have boundaries, but we can still love them from a distance. We can still love them unconditionally. My dad always told me, kill them with kindness. It's such a great word, Max. Kill them with kindness, because that's what it ends up being. It's just like, even in the healing process, it's like we love the worst parts of ourselves. We have to love the parts of ourselves that hate ourselves. And we love those and we hold those, right? And our child is just a part of that, right? Right now, they might hate you. They might despise the very sound of your voice, right? And we love them anyway. If given the chance, we will hold them and we'll say, yes, I agree. And this isn't right. This isn't right. And I hope this message is resonating with people, because the relationship that you have with your child is incredibly serious. And if you've been alienated from your child, what you don't have is the luxury of time, because we live in a world where an angry and manipulated child can get rejected, can reject a parent and destroy an entire relationship. And it can almost happen overnight. You can feel like that. Right? And you can just lose all access to your child for years. And how bad can it be? Even if you have a court document that says you have a legal right, then that could mean, daily conversations. They're gone. Birthdays, gone. Holidays, gone. Christmas, vacations, all of it just gone. And further, graduations, college milestones, invitations to weddings, access to your grandchildren, all gone in an instant, just like that. Those court documents, they're meaningless. They're meaningless because they're only as good as the reputation and integrity of the names that have signed on. And narcissists don't have that reputation or that integrity. They only care about themselves, and it doesn't matter what the laws are, it doesn't matter what the separation agreements are, what the family court says, what recommendations from therapists are, or counselors, or anyone. It's just like the blinders are on. If you have a narcissistic parent, the parent can be cold and even cruel. Absolutely, Yvette. Unless you do what the narcissistic parent wants. Yeah, that's the trade. That's the trade for love. Therefore, the child never forms a healthy environment. Yeah, but it never does. And it also, child learns the lesson that love is conditional, right? If I act, or if I think, or if I behave, then I will be accepted. And imagine going out into the world with that belief. What ends up happening is just like, it just becomes a cycle that repeats. It becomes generational trauma. And another heartbreaking part about being alienated from your child is that your alienated child just, they will push you out of your life, out of their life, out of your life. And one of the worst things about being alienated is when your child pushes you out of life, what you end up losing is all influence over them and how they think, right? They become very vulnerable to the influences from other narcissistic people, from very toxic people. And this can lead to behavioral issues, drug and alcohol abuse, dropping out of school, can lead to depression, even suicidal thoughts in extreme cases. And, the situation can go wrong in so many different ways if you don't know how to get your child back. So, what are the right and wrong things to do? What can you say or do to turn things around? And this becomes a problem, because with every passing day, your child gets further and further away from you. It's like they're trapped behind a wall and you can't access them, and they push you away. They become non-responsive, ignore calls, ignore texts and emails, and they start shutting you down, and you really don't even want to be around you. and their body language completely changes. And what's worse is that everything that you try to do to make things right gets twisted against you. Your words are picked apart. If you show up in your child's life, you're being controlling and demanding. If you step back, give your child space, well, you're abandoning them. And the narcissistic parent will be there to heal them. Narcissistic parent doesn't care about the damage that they're doing to their child. This emotional abuse, they don't care about it. And what for you, being alienated from your child, it's a no-win situation. You really hit the danger zone here. When your child starts to parrot the words that are being used against you by your ex, when they start saying that you only care about yourself, and it's heartbreaking to hear because it's a lie and it's not true. But your child believes it because, they've heard these messages repeated again and again, and these lies that have been turned on against you, you can just see that your child just is slowly getting further and further away from you. Because in reality it's like when your child, that you're alienated from your child, a narcissistic parent will hold your child almost like a hostage. And as a hostage, what's the child going to do? Would they have to do, they will do whatever they have to do in order to get along with their captors, in order to survive and have any kind of semblance of peace, of a childhood. And this is when your child is being fully weaponized against you. They'll say anything that they've been told to say to a therapist, a judge, children's services, even the police. And this loving relationship is eroded before you even realize that your alienated child becomes a complete stranger to you. And as you feel this relationship kind of slip away, you can grow more and more desperate trying to make it right. But with every attempt to make things better, you actually dig yourself into a deeper trap, because your own child starts to become a complete stranger and you feel so powerless and so ineffective to turn things around. And guess what? In that moment, you are powerless. You have to accept that in that moment, you are powerless because you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. You're using your own logic, and your own logic is being twisted and made into something that's wrong. And all the tactics that you've learned, that you've been taught, things that have worked really, really well for you at work or when you're talking to employees or clients to get what you want, that's not how you're going to get your child back. And this problem isn't going to go away on its own. It's only going to actually get worse. And there's so much self-sabotage that takes place. And there's one thing we can teach in this lesson that we can get through this is to lessen that self-sabotage. Because, you have to be willing participant in your own rescue. You have to make a commitment to yourself that you will not live like this anymore. That, you want to save your alienated child, you have to change the way that you respond to things. Because what you're going to find is that the court systems, the guardians, the mentors, the therapists, they either don't see what's going on, or they just don't want to see it, or simply don't have the backbone to call it out and to protect your child. It's going to happen again and again. So what I want to do is try to get you to help you find ways of messaging, of communicating. Because what we're talking to, when we're talking to our child who's been alienated from you, you've got to realize that this situation, the amount of control that they're under and the manipulation strategies that these narcissistic people employ, it's like you're going to be outmatched, you're going to be outgunned, and you're going to be outmaneuvered. And you're going to try to save a relationship with your child, it's going to be very, very difficult. And by saving your relationship with your child, even though it's incredibly hard, it can be done. You've got a lot going against you. So I want you to understand what you've got going against you. And yeah, absolutely. Your ex has been poisoning your child against you every single day for years. Sometimes telling them that, that they don't love you, that, that they don't care about you, that, that you're bad parents, what they're going to hear. And then you've got all these flying monkeys, the family members, the friends that are all ganging up against you, telling your child that, you're so worthless. And it's like, you're not even necessary. And they're hearing that. The child is seeing that from their own network, and they're hearing those bad things coming back about you. You could also have, therapists and counselors who don't know what they're doing, and they're going to be saying things like, the child doesn't want to see you or talk to you. So, you have to respect that, right? And that's just another third-party endorsement telling your child that it's okay to reject you, right? And you might have teachers at the school who've been brainwashed against you as well. And then, your success, your own mental health, your work, your work ethic, it's all being used against you. And of course, you have the very real emotions that you're actually carrying, the sadness. You're carrying sorrow, you're carrying hurt, you're carrying anger, you're carrying rage. Having an angry child that's angry at you in their life, who just wants to be able to love you and wants to be loved by you, underneath all of that poisoning, underneath all of that brainwashing, that's the core of the child. That core of the child never dies. And because they're locked into this situation, when they're constantly being told that they can only have one parent, and that parent is not you, but there is hope. Right? There are strategies and actions that you can take to start turning things around. And one of the reasons that it's so hard to solve is because they're using old patterns that we have no idea what we're doing when we're dealing with these people, with these narcissistic manipulators, because we're trying to fix things, and as we're trying to fix things, everything is blowing up in our face. So if you haven't realized it yet, what you need to know is what we don't already know, right? And what you don't know is actually making things worse. And yeah, we can feel paralyzed, not knowing what to do, and knowing that the odds in this picture of this picture-perfect family, the one on vacation that we had years ago, it's just all dropped, it's all disappeared. Everything, every passing day that goes by, you're just being cut out further and further in your life. And one of the secret weapons is to get into the mind of your child, to understand that they're hurt. That's why I talked about all of this, to understand what their point of view is. What are they feeling? They're angry and they're resentful, right? And you know that they're very impressionable. So in order to start this communication back with your own child, we need to start thinking about some of the words and the conversations that we've had with our child. Because this is not about the words or the intent of these words, but it's more important about how the child reads into it. And I'm going to help you understand a child that's a victim of Stockholm Syndrome and manipulation, how they actually read things, how the messages that you say are being interpreted and internalized differently, which is why we kind of have to start to change our messages. And I know your logical intent to send out these messages, but the thing is, you're living in this weird microcosm of communication, of interaction, that's just being twisted and manipulated, right? And what I want to do is to make the real tangible for you, to help you really understand. I want you to try to just simplify this to its very basic core. It's like if you message your child that, and this seems like such an innocent message. If you message your child that I miss you, this very simple expression, which is meant to show love and a desire to be with them. But imagine what a brainwashed, alienated child with Stockholm Syndrome is going to read in that. When your child sees that message from you that says you miss them, the exact opposite effect is what they actually hear. Because we have to understand the environment, the toxic environment that they're in, because your child will instantly feel like you're trying to shame them, you're trying to blame them, for your absence in the relationship, right? So we can see how we can fall into these little landmines, these traps that are set now. Because sometimes when a child in this situation hears that, I miss you, what do? They get defensive and instantly think, don't blame me, this is this is your fault, right? If you hadn't destroyed this family, if you hadn't abandoned us, just like my narcissistic parent over the years keeps saying this, told me again and again, if you hadn't tried to take our house away, tried to take the money, if the other parents, none of this would have been happening. It's all your fault. So, don't try to make me feel bad, tell me that you miss me. You caused these problems. In your child's mind, this is your fault. And that's the way that the child can see a message when all you do is you say, I miss you. You can see how dangerous this environment is. right? And you can see how damaging something that we think was meant to show love and affection can be twisted. Right? And the entire message that we send has already backfired, and we can actually make things worse and other mistakes that we can make in these messages into alienated children. It's like, you could say things like, it's been 2 months since I've spoken to you, right? It's been 2 months. And you might think this is going to melt your child's heart. Oh, it's been 2 months. Right? You think that it's going to show them, that you're pining over them, you're remembering how much, how long it's been. All of those things is what you think. You think the child sees how sad you are about this situation, but your child is going to see this as a total guilt trip, right? It's a trap. Well, that's what you're doing. You're sending me this thing. You're sending me this guilt. You're sending me this stress. You're sending me this anxiety. You're putting it into my life, and these simple sentences can cause so much damage to an already very fragile relationship. So if you say, I wish I could spend more time with you, with the alienated child is going to read that differently too. Your own child is going to read that differently. They're going to be like, oh, poor you, you're so selfish. This is all about you, reinforcing your belief that, you're a bad parent. You just keep proving it to me again and again. My other parent was right. My narcissistic parent was right. They were such a good parent. They've been telling me all these things the whole time. So what do? They push you away. Because in this world, this twisted, upside down, backwards, narcissistic maze of Alice in Wonderland on steroids, it's just like, that's the world. It's upside down, it's backwards, it's twisted. Everything is twisted against you. So, yeah, we can say things like, I wish to spend more time with you, or I miss you, or it's been, this long since we've seen each other last. But the very thought process that your child is experiencing, these messages are coming at them a completely different way. They're absorbing it in a completely different way. And you might actually get alienated even further because time with you is seen as a violation of their loyalty towards the parent who's pulling the strings. Right? And your child's mind has been warped and manipulated to believe that they only have one parent, one loving parent. They've been manipulated into thinking that it's only okay to spend time and have love with everything, with only one parent, with a narcissistic parent. And that's the only thing that's okay. And unfortunately, that parent is narcissistic, and that parent is not you. And your child, unfortunately, has been programmed to believe if they, direct any kind of love, any kind of affection towards anyone that isn't the narcissistic parent, then they're being disloyal. And, guess who that benefits? You're angry, you're bitter, you're narcissistic ex. And your child, unfortunately, believes that this is absolutely, unacceptable to love both of you. Because if they love you, then it's taking love away from the narcissistic parent. Remember, narcissistic parents think love is finite. And the amount of love that a child can give can only go to one place, right? Narcissistic ex, sees your child giving love to you. What does that poor parent think? It's like, oh God, they're stealing love from me. Oh, right? Let's just check the messages. Yeah, they groom their children during the early years. They do. And it is a form of brainwashing. And children are so susceptible. And I wish this was illegal. I wish that emotional abuse and manipulation and stuff was illegal. But, unless there's bruises, there's very little that can be done. Yeah, there should be a class in high school that teaches that. Absolutely. And I think actually schools would be beneficial to even hear these things. Yeah, you're not alone, Max. There should be definitely a class. Wow, my given name was Kathy, and I legally changed it to let go of my past. All right, that does happen. That does happen. So yeah, I just want to, it's just important to just be very careful and be very wary of understanding both sides of what's happening, because you may want to tell your child, you may want to say, hey, what you're believing, that you're believing is a lie. You're going to want to say that, but you can't. I know, you can't. You can't do that because the child would be thinking you're calling them stupid, saying, that this is what they're going to hear. It's like, oh, you're insulting my decision making. You're just insulting it. Really? You're saying that I can't think for myself. You're calling me stupid. You're saying all of these things are lies, and I believe them. I believe them. So you think I'm dumb, right? So you can see how it's a powder keg, this environment that the child is in. And you can see how, seemingly, harmonious little words can be twisted against you. And this is the trap that so many parents who are victims of narcissistic alienation just fall into with their children again and again. And if this is true for you, you're going to hear your child parenting your ex. You will hear them do it. And you will be tempted to say that, is that someone else that's telling you to say that to me? You're going to want to say that. But, even if it is true, asking that question to your child would be like, it's going to get you the wrong results. They might think, that, how dare you? I'm 10 years old, or I'm 12 years old, or I'm 19 years old, whatever their age. They might think, you think I'm not smart. I'm smart enough to make my own decisions, and you don't get to tell me otherwise. So we can't even say that they're being lied to. And this is a painful reality of dealing with a situation where your words and actions are constantly being used against you. So when you say things like this, you give ammunition to the other narcissistic parent to use against you. And it all makes sense. It makes sense for the parent. If you're being alienated from your child, to tell your child, it's like, I don't know why you're believing in the lies, why you're shutting me out of your life, why you're shutting our entire family out, people who've loved you for your entire life. You wanted to ask them that, because even that is going to backfire on you, because your child will get defensive and see you as the one that's being accusatory. It actually triggers them to start justifying why they're rejecting you. They might even respond with, yeah, I'm shutting you out of all of this because you said this and you said that and you never done this and you never done that. And all of this is all about you, right? And all of these reasons why we can't have you in my life anymore. You're giving me them. And, and we know that they're lies, but they believe the lies. So in their world, it's true, right? And you know what it's like to live in that narcissistic environment because you once lived in that environment yourself. And it's a powder keg. You may have spent years walking on eggshells, right? And now your child is living in that environment, right? Haven't seen or talked to my son in 3 months. I'm so sorry. She told me he doesn't want to be with me. Yeah, he's 16. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. Recently he's gotten aggressive towards me. He took me off the birthday, threatened me. Oh, yeah. You can reach out, Caitlin, and let me see. I have a link somewhere. Oh, here we go. I'll send a link. There's a link to anyone who wants to just connect if you want to get further information. You can click on that link. You can give me your details, your information, and we can start a dialogue, and I can get you some information, and hopefully that'll help. And if you need one-on-one support or group sessions or any of those things, they're all available. So yeah, and a lot of these things, it's just like I know some of these, and I know that some people want to have very specific answers to the questions, but it's just like every situation is so different, and every dynamic is so different. And until we actually understand the dynamic and we start pulling these things apart, yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Caitlin. Somebody will reach out to you. We'll reach out to you really soon, and yeah, help you unpack, unpack all this. All right. So yeah, just remember that your child is in an environment that you once lived in, so you know how toxic that environment is. Your children will replay every single mistake that you've ever made, and every made up or manipulation that they've ever been told. And they just kind of repeat it again and again, all to justify their anger and their resentment towards you. Then your child will look at this entire, message that you may have sent them and say, this right here, this is exactly what causes me stress. You talking to me is causing me stress, is causing me anxiety. You call me and I don't answer, right? This causes me stress and chaos and disruption to my life. And here's the proof. Here's the proof. and they'll think that, you're the one that is questioning their intelligence or decision-making ability. And you see how these things were, even though, we mean well, we actually empower your child to, not want to deal with you at all. And it gives your alienated child, the child that you really want to see and be part of your life, even more reason to reject you. And yet, you might send a message like this and feel good about sending it to them. Like you're expressing yourself, that you've shared your emotions, that they're going to be shocked by how much love and stuff and think that this is going to lead positive change. And what happens is, because you're dealing with a powder keg, what ends up happening is that, you're responded by I'll explain my side of things. You may want to explain your side of things to your kid. But the kid sees that as just self-centered and self-serving. This is all about you. You don't care about me. You don't care about what my feelings are. That's what sharing your side of the story is going to tell them. And they'll think, again, this is all about you. If you hadn't walked out that door, if you'd still been here, I'd still be in your life. I just have to listen to more and more of your excuses. That's what I have to do. And you're the one that's lying to me. Right? Even though they're the ones that are being lied to and the ones that are being manipulated. But from their world, from their perspective, those lies have been ingrained, those lies are truth in their world. And they're just feeling that your presence is causing them stress. And it's too much stress for a child to deal with. It actually causes pain and suffering. And the easiest way to get rid of this stress is to get rid of you. And you can almost be compassionate and understanding for what that is for that child to make that decision. You could just try to say, well, wait, I just want you to see the truth. I want you to know the truth. The truth is right here. And what happens is what you're going to say is going to imply that the narcissistic parent is lying, right? It's just like when somebody's been gaslit and you try to tell them the truth. It's just like they don't want to believe it. So keep in mind that your child is trauma bonded to a narcissistic parent. And the thought that you might have some truth that's different from the lies that they've been told again and again from a narcissistic parent, they're not going to believe you. They're going to believe you're the one that's lying. You can make that child feel like, they're trying to control them and that you're trying to manipulate them with lies, not truth, because their lies are truth to them. And then you could be asking your child to spend more time with them. And what does the child see with that? Oh, it's like, oh, great. You're the main cause of my stress and anxiety and you want to be in my life. Right. Okay. So you mean to want to be even close, but you're asking to be close, and what ends up happening is you're making things even worse. You want to make me feel more guilty. More shame, more for spending time with me. Because the more time I spend with you, the more worse I feel. And then you're going to talk to my other parent, and they're going to tell me that they're lying to me, right? No. But when I know that they know, that everyone around them knows that, you're not the problem. You're not the real problem. Yeah. So it's just like that's what they're going to say. But they're going to say, but how do we communicate that, right? Because they will say, absolutely, not signing up for spending more time with you. Don't call me again. And even though it's a simple message, is saying, it's been months or years since we've been seeing. I want to talk to you again. So how do we combat these lies and manipulation? How do we stand up for ourselves and try to hold on to the relationship when everything is against you and we know that this isn't going away on its own? And saving your child needs to be a completely different approach, because in this world, in this toxic world, in this toxic environment that your child is living in, where an angry child can reject a parent, and just like that, overnight, that parent loses everything. You lose everything. This hurts us. This hits us hard. It hits us like a shock when we're filled with disbelief. And we can just believe that this is actually happening to us. It's hard to believe. And completely blindsided by the rejection of our own child. And then second is like the next thing that comes up is just guessing and hoping, because there's so much uncertainty about this situation. And then, this causes you, the alienated parent, makes you might want to try even harder. You might end up making even more mistakes by trying too hard, by trying to make more and more attempts and hoping that, one of these attempts will work. And then, you know, it's also like it's overwhelming in the sense that, you know, the desperation and the paralysis, because nothing is working. So what has that left you feeling with? You know, total anxiety. And that leads to fear, and this feeling of, you know, hopelessness. And in order for us to turn this relationship around, we need to understand what's going on in our child's mind, because they have been weaponized against you. You know, we need to just get a very persuasive execution in the way that we talk, and the way we need to do that. We need to heal ourselves. We need to be calm, even though we're stepping into traps again and again. Just can't have them explode on our feet all the time. You know, but with the right strategy and the exact words to use in these specific actions, you can get your child back. So what you're going to find is, like, you know, without expert help, reconnecting is possible. But it is going to be confusing, it is going to be dangerous, and it is very risky. And you can easily get lost in this toxic maze. But with expert guidance, you know, you can follow a plan to help, you know, save the relationship with your child. And of course, there aren't any guarantees with any results, because no one can guarantee that you will change the perception of your child. You know, they have been gaslit, they have been manipulated for years and years. But there are things that you can do to just reduce the amount of damage that's being caused and start to turn things around sooner, because this is really important. And when you know that your child is being brainwashed against you, you need to know exactly what to say and what not to say to just counteract the lies. Because the message that your child needs to hear is that you love them no matter what. I love you no matter what. And that message is not one that they've heard from the narcissistic parent. It's totally foreign. What do you mean you love me no matter what? You love me even if I don't hate the other parent? Yeah. You love me even though I said I hate you? Yeah. I love you no matter what. And it's like, you have to love me, right? And I will do this, and I will do this, and I will do this. This is like, that's what they're used to hearing. What do you mean? You know, there's no strings attached to love. But the child has grown up in an environment where love and strings are intermeshed. That's all that they understand. What do you mean? That's not what love is, yeah. And if they're angry with you, guess what? You have to acknowledge that they're angry at you, right? It may not be your fault. Maybe nothing that you've done. But we have to acknowledge where they are. Even if it's unjustified in your mind, you have to acknowledge that they're angry. You know they're disappointed. You have to acknowledge that. You know, I'm sorry that me showing up, that, you know, whatever event I went to that I disappointed you, I'm so sorry for that. You know, it was just me sending a birthday card or a Christmas card has upset you. I acknowledge that. And it's that acknowledging that and respecting their boundaries, that what you might realize is that how not that now may not be a good time, right? When they push you away that hard, pushing back further, it's just going to be the opposite poles of a magnet. You may have to go around and flip the magnet around in order for the child to come back, right? And there will be a good time for you to come back. You just have to make the child know that the door is always open, and that even if everything's awful, the door is open and my love is unconditional. Remind them that they have two loving parents who love them, and that they have two loving parents. That's the message that you have to get to them all over and over again. You can have two parents that love you, right? And the other thing that you can't say enough is just don't say anything bad about the other parent, right? Because they've been lied to again and again and again. And if you get into that whole mess, then it's just like they love that parent. And if they're bonded to that parent, and you're trying to throw dirt on that parent, they're just going to turn more towards that parent. So it's very important. And acknowledge that you're not perfect. Acknowledge that you have made mistakes and you're sorry for them. And from time to time, you know, you hope that in time that your child will forgive you for those mistakes. But for now, it's like, it's okay to be mad at me. It's okay to be mad at me. You have to completely reinvent our communication with our children. And that means a brand new custom vocabulary that we need to use, and new words and new phrases that we can follow. And it's something that becomes repeatable. Like the repetitive process is just so important, because you're going to have to do it over and over again. Because keep in mind, it's just these barriers and these walls that the child's heart. And if we can just soften those layers, soften those layers, soften those layers, with love, eventually it'll dissolve. But it just takes time. You have to do it over and over again. And always be kind. Always be patient. Always be calm. And if you're not calm, it's time to step back. And then step back when you are calm. And give your child the time to process. Because that narcissistic parent, the one that's manipulating your child, doesn't want you to have access to your child. They doesn't want your child to know the truth. They don't want your child to hear your side of the story, so they will block all your access. They will monitor everything, every form of communication. They will intercept all your gifts, any kind of messages. And we all know that being rejected takes a huge emotional toll on you. That's what you need to do, is to create this emotional resilience training. Part of the healing process is emotional resilience training. That's why counseling is really, really important, and so is therapy. Because every time that you feel sad or angry or frustrated or afraid or helpless, those emotions can get the best of you. And your child is so sensitive and so volatile that when you express those emotions, whoa, right? So that's why it's just like getting help, whether it's through recovery or through somebody else. Just get the help that you need, and know that it will take time, but it's a battle that's worth fighting, and there are other ways that the narcissistic X is going to keep winning, and it's totally normal when you have self-doubt, if you have negative self-talk, to replay it all, those hurtful memories that you made that make you feel worthless. Right? They are going to repeat again and again and again. And these are traumas. And these traumas, the complex traumas, because they're relationship traumas, they're interpersonal traumas. And even having, you not only have to heal from the relationship, but you have to heal from the relationship of abandonment. And those are deep wounds, but we can heal them. And it can make you feel like nothing that you ever do is ever going to change or anything. So you also need to create a new mindset. Right? If you believe there's nothing that you can do, you're absolutely right, 100% right. But if you believe there is something you can do, you're also right. You're also 100% right. Mindset. You have to find ways of becoming more compassionate towards yourself. When you become more compassionate towards yourself, when you are with others, when you're with a damaged child, a hurt child, then you will be more compassionate towards that child too. Right? You become a very resilient parent. Right? And what's going to happen is you're going to create breakthroughs to form a place of confidence and control over yourself and your own situation. And for all of this to work, you need to be powerful again. So the walls will just come crashing down all on their own. And the emotional mindset will help you overcome the shame and the anger that you're feeling, so that you can create these breakthroughs from a place of confidence and take command back of this situation and take command back of your own life. Because it makes sense. What you've been through makes sense. It makes sense that you feel rejected. It makes sense that, becoming very isolated is hurtful. Being isolated from your kid is painful. Absolutely. Absolutely. And no one else can really get you or understand you, what's going on. They don't understand. And there's a lot of judgment out there, right? Because what you might be thinking is, it's my own child. If they really love me, if they really cared about me, why are they putting me in the middle of this fight, right? That's what your child is going to think if you put them in the middle of the fight. Because a child that's being alienated, here's what they're actually thinking. It's like, if you really loved me, if you really cared about me, why did you put me in the middle of this fight, right? Why are you making me choose, right? Why are you treating me so poorly? Why are you making me feel this way? These are the things your child is going to be saying. And of course, because that's what the narcissistic parent has fed them, right? But that doesn't matter. What matters is That's where they are right now in their thinking process. And if you want to change something, you have to go to their thinking process, not yours, not bring them over to your side. Go to their side and then bring them over, right? So your goal is to join with them. And the main thing a child that's been subjected to this form of alienation is feeling. What's the main thing? They're feeling anger. They're really angry. And behind that anger, what's there? Sadness, sorrow. And they're certainly not angry at the narcissistic parent, the one that's manipulating them, because they have way too much loyalty to them. So who else can they be angry at? And the person they can be the most angry at is you. And I know that sounds strange. I know you're thinking, why? Why should they be angry at me? Well, I haven't done anything really wrong. In their minds, you have. We have to start with what they are. We have to dispel their own anger. But their minds, because the narcissistic parent has put these thoughts into their minds, has put these thoughts into their brains, into their belief systems, and that's what they believe. So the first thing that we have to do is join them where they are in their anger. So you can start off with any kind of message to them. Say, when you do get to speak to them, you can say things like, I've been thinking about you and everything that's been happening, and I can only imagine how angry you must be at me. And it's like right there, what's happening right there. You're joining in with them. You're joining them immediately with what they think. And it's like, how do they respond to that? It's like, oh, you know what? You're actually thinking about me? You're actually starting to acknowledge that what I'm actually feeling? And that's what I want from you, just to be acknowledged, right? You hate me. Oh, I see that you hate me. Oh. And your child just wants you to know that you're thinking about how they're feeling, and acknowledge that they are in pain, that they are suffering, and you can probably say something like, you probably, feel really sad about, being placed in the middle of all this, that you have two parents who love you and they're fighting for you and you're in the middle of this separation. That's got to be really sad. It's got to be really confusing for you. And that makes sense because you're joining in with them. You're acknowledging that they have feelings. And a lot has gone on in the past, absolutely. They just probably won't understand, or they may never understand. But right now, your main goal is to make a connection with them, whatever way that takes. Make that connection. So just simply say, how's school going? Or what are you doing? Or, I was thinking about you today. I want you to really think about this, right? If somebody is angry at you and what they want to hear from you the most, right? They actually want to hear an apology. And I know this is going to be a hard thing for you to do because you're thinking, what am I apologizing for? But in their minds, you have a lot to apologize for, because based on what their narcissistic parent has programmed and fed into their minds, they believe that you are wrong. And we may have to make apologies. And it's just like, whatever it is, it's just like telling the child, I hear you. I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. I'm sorry that you're going through all of this. I'm sorry. I may not have responded in all the right ways in all the right times. I may not have acted the best way in all of those other things. And say that, that I haven't always said the right things at the right time. And I'm sorry for that. I'm really, really sorry. Please forgive me. And these messages slowly, over time, help get you closer to this alienated child or teen. And I don't want to make it seem like there's an easy fix for this, because there really isn't. There is not an easy fix. This is not an easy process. It takes dedication. It takes, energy. And most of all, it takes persistence and self-love. Because if you love yourself, you can be exposed to all sorts of horrible things. But your love, it's going to shine through. And it does feel like you're losing every single battle, and it will. But you're still showing up. And at the end of it, ask yourself, it's like, aren't your kids worth it? So to, all the parents out there that are struggling, with the pain of parental alienation, who are dealing with a toxic narcissistic ex, I just want to remind you, that some of the points that we've discussed so far and what we've kind of gone through, because parental alienation, it's deeply damaging, right? It's a process where a child is systematically turned against another parent. It's a process that is filled with manipulation, with lies, emotional abuse. It creates a rift between you and your child. And this impact is profound. And it has lasting effects on both the child and you and as the alienated parent in ways that can feel overwhelming and insurmountable at times. And yes, you're realizing what's going on, and you may feel powerless, you may feel desperate, you may feel isolated. And the words that you use and the actions that you take, everything can feel like it's backfiring. I know. But the end goal of this is to reconnect with your child, to find ways to communicate, that breaking through this manipulation and rebuild that trust and that love that has been damaged. So it's always important for us to remember and understand the child's perspective. Recognize that your child is hurt, that your child is angry, that they are confused because they've been told lies, they've been shaped, their perception of you have been manipulated, and it's crucial to meet them where they are emotionally, right? And be very careful with your communication, because the words that seem very simple to you, like "I miss you" or "I wish I could spend more time with you," they can be misunderstood. They can be misinterpreted. Instead, focus on acknowledging their feelings and showing empathy. We do need to apologize, even if you feel like you've done nothing wrong. An apology, it can be a very powerful tool to bridge that gap. And we have to apologize for. We don't have to apologize for things that we aren't guilty of or didn't do. We do have to apologize for anything that might have validated their fear or invalidated their feelings, or shown them that that you only care about, that you care about their emotional experience. And that doesn't mean apologizing for things that you didn't do or things that you've been falsely accused of. What you are apologizing for is the way the situation is affecting your child, and that you're very sorry. Right? And the other thing is consistent effort. Rebuilding a relationship takes time. It takes patience. It takes an obscene amount of persistence. Right? It's also going to be a long journey. But your dedication will show your child that you are committed to being part of their lives. And get support, because you don't have to do this alone. Seeking help from a professional who understands parental alienation can help offer you the guidance and the strategies that are tailored towards your situation. There are no simple situations. I know that there's been questions and people asking, like, what do I do? What do I do? It's very difficult, and it has to be tailored to your situation, your character, your relationship, the length of time, the level of narcissism. There's so many elements at play. Right? Because we do need to have emotional resilience upon ourselves. We do have to grow that within ourselves. And even though we're hurt, and even though we get knocked down, we get back up. And we do it again tomorrow. And it means we have to work on our own emotional health, because that's stronger, right? Becoming more resilient, becoming better. So we can support ourselves, that we can be strong enough to support our children. Because to support a child that's hurt and damaged, it takes so much strength and so much resilience. And you have that opportunity right now to find that strength. Because, our children, they see that we're calm, that we're the calm ones, that we're the resilient ones, we're the ones that keep showing up. Because the love, what are they learning? That love is unconditional. And this is what unconditional love looks like. And this is a difficult journey. And it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And there are going to be times when we're going to feel hopeless. Absolutely. But in those times, remember that there's always hope. That your love for your child is a powerful force. And with the right approach, you can begin to heal the wounds within yourself and rebuild that relationship. So it's important to always try to stay strong, to stay committed, to grow that commitment, because your child's worth, the very effort, the very moment of your patience and your understanding will also be planted into the subconscious mind of a child that's hurting, a child that's in pain. And we can find a way to navigate through this. And it's a very painful path, but you will come out stronger on the other side. So I just want to say thank you for your dedication, for your love. I just want to say, stay strong for your children, because they do need you. And I also want to reassure you that in time, with persistence, they will come to see, the truth eventually. But most of all, they just need to see the depth of your love. All right. My name is Miles, and I'm from recovery. I wasn't planning on crying. But anyway, my name is Miles. I'm from recovery, and this is what I do. I help people with these deep emotional wounds. Help them, carry through the pain, work through the pain, find their strength, find their growth, find their ability to heal. And if you need support, you can find it on recovery.com. I'm gonna send a link where you can set a meeting, and we can start a dialogue. Yeah, and if there's anything anyone wants to ask, I'm going to try to answer it as best as I can. But very in-depth conversations and in-depth things. This is such an intricate and complicated thing that it really does require the one-on-one support and one-on-one care. But I do want you to know that you're not alone. And the strength and the resilience that you're going to get from healing yourself and then showing up, it's powerful and it's beautiful. And one day, even though your child may never know, and they don't need to, they just need to know what unconditional love is. And to do that, you have to love yourself unconditionally, and that means to acknowledge that you're hurting and that you're in pain. Oh, I'm so glad, Tiffany. I'm glad, and you're very welcome. And thanks, Max. Yeah, I love you too, man. Your comments throughout this whole thing have been amazing. So thank you very much, Kimberly. Thank you, Grant. You're very welcome. The truth will set us free. Those are brilliant. Big hugs. Thanks, Kathy. Big hugs to you too. And and remember, it's just like recovery. It's just like that phoenix. It's just like we rise from the ashes, and the ashes are hurt. The ashes are the suffering and the pain that we all carry. But it's just like you're leaning into it. It's like, wow. It's not so scary in the middle of it all. If you have guidance, if you have support, you can go right into the middle of it again and again and again. Again and again. The worst things that have ever happened to you are the real things that make you so strong who you are. And, it's like I use hypnotherapy with my clients, and I would not, if I could, I would not remove a single memory from your past. I can't, but I wouldn't, because those messages, that stuff, it's just like that's where the resilience comes from. The strongest people I know have had the most difficult lives. Why? Because they had to stand up. Right? You want to know the secret to success? Get up one more time than you've fallen. Yeah, you're going to face a challenge, and you're going to have to face another one and another one and another one. And the world's going to seem like it's against you. So take on the fucking world, right? Take it on. Bring it. What else you got? Right? Thank you, Kimberly. I'm glad you found that. Glad I found that helpful. All right. Well, I know this is. I did warn everyone it was going to be a long live, and I just want to thank everyone who showed up and did all of this. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And and you can find me on recovery.com or send me a message. And I do hope this message brings clarity to people and helps them understand, because you really have to know what your child has gone through, what they're experiencing, how they interpret the world, in order, and then be where they are and talk to them in that way. And those layers eventually will break. But right now, it's just like we have to be very, very careful. So I'm just going to end it there. Thank you. I love you all. And thank you to this community, amazing community. And like, we're going to hit 21,000 people probably by the end of this month. And that's a massive amount of growth. And I just thank you all. Thank you all. I'm going to sign out.